let's begin with an opening prayer. Take a couple deep breaths. Center yourself. Go to that place where your head and your heart come together and join with that one presence and power that is you. That is who you truly are. And you have access to all knowledge, all wisdom, all faith. Everything is there. And we just need to remember to go there and to ask. And it doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out, hours worth of meditation. We can go to that place at a stoplight, in the dentist office, wherever we are, whenever we choose to. We can ask for that guidance. We can step into that gap between the flame of anger being ignited and the explosion and choose something different. And we are so grateful for knowing that we are individualized expressions of that one power and presence. And we're going to bring that knowledge with us as we learn and grow in consciousness together here today. And so it is, and it is so. Amen. The gratitude part of it is so important. And from Mark 11:24, whatever you ask in prayer, believe you have it, and it will be yours. I mean, it's as simple and as complicated as that. So let's real quick go over what we've talked about from the beginning. We talked about the fact that we are wholly, completely and fully holy. Individualized expressions of the one. And everything and everyone is connected to that whole. And all the things we've talked about them individually, yet they are all part of the one. And everything in the physical world isn't really physical at all. And those of you who've studied the Course in Miracles know that that's a lot what the Course talks about. Everything's made of atoms, but the atoms are made of energy. And what's the energy made of? Consciousness. And we can have empowering thoughts and feelings or disempowering thoughts and feelings. That's where that choice comes in. As far as our physical prosperity goes, there are things that we can do to improve our physical prosperity. I was just reading a little piece from Conversations with God, and Neil Donald Walsh was having a conversation with God, and he was complaining, and the response he got, he was complaining about not having enough, not being healthy enough. He had a lot of illnesses going on in his life, and he was speaking to God, and God said, well, you don't really want to be healthy. He's like, what do you mean I don't want to be healthy? Of course I want to be healthy. He said, well, you may say you want to be healthy, but at that time he was still smoking. And God said, well, you're still smoking. The food that you're putting into your body isn't exactly good for you. Junk food.
Poison.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Physical prosperity comes from realizing we are spiritual beings, but right now we're in this physical form. So we need to eat nutritious foods. We need to exercise. And we can do something we enjoy. If you love to dance, dance. Get enough sleep. Pray and meditate. And not just daily, just pick and choose any time at all. Practice mindfulness. Be in the now moment. Participate in social activities. I hope you got your tickets for Dee's 90th birthday party. That's going to be a ball. Volunteer. Participate in social activities. Find and maintain social support. And you can get plenty of it right here at Unity East or wherever. I mean, Mike and I recently joined OPC in Rochester, and there's pickleball, there's meditation classes, there's all kinds of stuff. And I know there are community centers all over.
Yeah, but that's a special one.
It is, it really is. And also make sure you're consulting with your healthcare team. And spiritual prosperity is increased. The biggest thing, the best, easiest, quickest way to increase our spiritual prosperity is through prayer and meditation. By seeking the sacred in everything, even the little things, like the power being out, and instead of being a nutcase over it, you just deal with it. Isn't that an easier, better way to live? Appreciate everything, every day. Not just the good stuff that you want, but appreciate the less than wonderful stuff. What can I learn? What can I take from this? And spend some time in nature. Take a walk. I mean, I was looking outside this morning and the sky was actually had some blue in it.
Yeah.
Haven't seen that blue in a while. I mean, it's actually, we've had a few days, but it's just appreciating the fact that I feel like spring is in the air, even though it's still February. It's I can feel it coming. I can feel it coming. And for emotional prosperity, this is a quote from Eric Butterworth, and I think this is really, really good. Carolyn, can you read that for us?
The things we hope and pray for can only come when we see ourselves as God sees us. Prosperity in all its forms is not so much of a process as it is a revelation of our divine heritage. It is not so much setting something right as seeing it rightly. Eric Butterworth.
Yep. So that's that seeing
Is that in
the
a specific book or a specific?
yeah, but I don't know which one. I have a lot.
You should have a list of where someone might say find the books.
Well, you can pick up almost
I'm
anything
thinking-
by Eric Butterworth and find this kind of information.
Well-
He's a prolific writer, and I mean was a prolific writer and an outstanding speaker. I mean, and I haven't read anything by Eric Butterworth that I don't find. I mean, some of this stuff comes from little articles that he's written, and if you go on truthunity.net, there's a ton of stuff. There's lots of good stuff in the Unity East Library. Emotional prosperity. When it comes to making decisions and taking actions, remember it's not just our thoughts, it's our feelings that count so much. How we feel about something is equally, if not more important than what we think. It's the thoughts and feelings coming together that really help us. And we talked a lot about emotional intelligence last week. These are the 5 areas: our social skills, our self-awareness, our self-regulation, differing from self-control, remember, empathy, and motivation. And this may be an area that if you get the slides, you might want to spend some time, or get Daniel Goleman's book, Emotional Intelligence. It's an older book, but it's filled.
G-O-L-M-A-N.
G-O-L-E-M-A-N, Daniel Goleman. Relational prosperity, and Gary, see what I did for you, and Mike.
Brotherhood. She added brotherhood.
Helping one another is part of the religion of sisterhood, and I added and brotherhood.
There you go.
Because
appreciate it.
we don't want to
That's right.
not include the
Right.
guides. And relational abundance encourages both parties to nurture their passions and transform. Because we are in the process of transforming what when we first start out, we aren't necessarily born into a family that teaches us all these wonderful things about you are an individualized expression of God, young lady or young man. we often get that, what the heck are you thinking? You know, we aren't always given that nurturing that we need as children. So it's up to us as adults to make the choice to nurture ourselves. It's time. It's time now for us to embody, to live, to be a way of being that is in alignment with abundance. And what is that? It's a state of ease and flow. We don't have to try and work so hard at it. We just allow. And when we allow, it comes. So, let's start with a quote from Charles Fillmore. And Roseanne, can I ask you to read that, please?
Sure. Financial prosperity. We are now in the dawn of a new era. The old methods of supply and support are fast passing away, and new methods are waiting to be brought forth. Charles Fillmore.
Okay, new methods. And this was written in the 30s and 40s or whenever he was, you know, in his prime time.
It applies for today's.
It applies
Really?
Absolutely. It's amazing to me how many of these principles just are spot on for 2022 or whatever, 23. Whatever year it is. And goes back to the Bible. And I'm going to read this one because I want to put emphasis on certain parts. Blessed is the one who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly. And the counsel of the ungodly doesn't mean they're bad, you're walking with bad people. What it means is you're allowing those thoughts and feelings that are not in alignment with who you truly are to take the lead. So that's not what you want to do. You want to be with the thoughts and feelings whose delight is in the law of the Lord and who meditates on this law day and night. And what we mean by this is live the truth you know. When you get into a jam, ask for help, ask for guidance. And that person is like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season and whose leaf does not wither. And here's the bottom line. Whatever they do prospers. Doesn't matter what area. Relationships, physical prosperity, mental prosperity, spiritual prosperity, and our financial. It all works together. You can't say, well, I'm going to be financially prosperous, but, you know, I don't need that spiritual stuff. It's not going to work. It may work for a time, but how many people know somebody who is financially successful and miserable?
Most of us.
Too many. Too many. Eric Butterworth, this isn't my favorite quote of Eric's, but Carol, can you read that, please?
Prosperity consciousness, financial crises, as far as you are concerned, begin with you, capitalize. You're not personally causing them, but if you are fearful of them, then you are responding to the counsel of the ungodly, and they will become an influence on your life.
So this tie, the reason I use this quote obviously is because of the tie-in to that quote from Psalm. I mean, if we are fearful, when we allow that anxiety, that anger, that apathy, that bitterness, all the stuff that the Lenten booklet is telling us to release, if we, instead of releasing it, are just mentally shaking in our boots, we are responding to the counsel of the ungodly. And we want to let that go. The metaphysical definition of prosperity says this: the consciousness All things are consciousness, remember? The consciousness that is divine mind is inexhaustible. Support and supply. We live in an abundant universe. So when we have a prosperity consciousness, we recognize that abundance everywhere and in everything. We're primarily going to be using this book, cover to cover, today. And it's really more than can be covered in an hour, hour and 15 minutes, but we're gonna breeze through it as much as we can. And the reason I told that story about tithing is because, honestly, you guys, if anyone's ever resisted tithing, you're looking at her. Because I didn't want to do it. I couldn't afford it. That's what I told myself. But tithing is the first of the 4 spiritual laws of prosperity. And in Malachi 3:10, it says, bring the whole tithe into the storehouse. And then what does the divine spirit say? Test me in this and see if I will not open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing, there will not be room enough for it. And that's what I see for this church. I see the individual mindsets and consciousness of the people in this church changing to a mindset of prosperity, to a prosperity consciousness. And as we grow our consciousnesses individually into that prosperity mindset, then the floodgates will open. The floodgates will open, and we will not know what to do with all the wonderful things that are happening around here. You know, people have already said, we're probably going to need more room. And I'm like, yes, I certainly hope so. I mean, we're having a little thing with the Reiki and classes and this, that, and the other. It'll all work out. I'm sure of it. And that's just, those are the kind of problems
Good problem.
I'd like to have. That's good trouble.
Growing pain kind of problems.
You bet. You bet. So, the tithe, according to Ed, we tithe 10%. By putting, okay, no, I'm not reading this. Melanie, can you read that, please?
Tithing the 10%, putting God first in your finances is a dynamic act of courage. When you do so, your faith and your ability to move forward and to expand your vision of yourself and your life increases 100-fold, and that is exactly what we affirmed when we said the prayer this morning. The 3 of us, we accept 100-fold return on our tithe.
That's awesome.
That's incredible.
See,
Word
that's,
for word.
again, there's the universe.
Really.
There's that universe conspiring again to just affirm what we're talking about. Perfect example. And, you've all heard the stories about somebody wins a huge amount in the lottery, and within 3 to 5 years, they're just as broke as they were before. And that's because they haven't developed the prosperity consciousness. And this quote from Charles Fillmore really applies. There's one energy, one presence, one power. And giving and receiving are the 2 poles of that one energy. So how can we expect to receive if we're not willing to give? And, it took me a while to get it, but I just find it truly amazing that once I started tithing, once Mike and I started tithing, there's still plenty of money. In fact, money just kind of appears from different sources. Like, where did that come from? And it's really quite amazing. And this, I think, is, again, I'm sorry. I know I'm going to run over because I get blabby on this stuff. We know we've made progress, spiritual progress, when we can have our things or not and be happy either way. You know, it's like this morning. No internet, no mics, no this, no that. You know what? It was great. We had a wonderful service. Linda put on her school teacher voice and projected out there. I mean, it was awesome. And I'm thinking that the recording is going to show that. And that's what we do. We live the truth we know. And we're happy. It doesn't matter what's happening. We're fine. We're good. It's all good.
It's all good. Quote and unquote.
Yeah, that's what we're saying.
Yes.
Yeah, it's all good. All of it. Mike, would you read that?
Only when you genuinely believe you are blessed with unlimited possibility can prosperity come into your life.
So if there's those little nagging doubts, that's from this book.
Okay, and that's from, no, who's the author?
Edwin
Edwin
Gaines.
Gaines.
Oh, Edwin Gaines, okay.
Yeah. I mean, if we've got those little nagging doubts, yeah, I'm prosperous, but yeah, I have enough for this, but I don't have enough for that. Yes, you know, that whole but word, I have tried to eliminate from my vocabulary.
Yes.
I really, and that takes work. And now every time I hear somebody say, oh, it was wonderful, but, I'm like, well, then it wasn't all that wonderful, I guess.
Cancels everything before.
Before you say it.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And if you haven't heard that, I don't know where that came from. I don't know, but
Dale
Some
Carnegie.
enlightened individual,
Yeah,
without a
exactly.
doubt.
has told us, and it's stuck in our minds, and it's true. You know why it's stuck? Because it's true. You know, so you can, and it takes practice. All of this stuff takes practice. It was great, and I thought it might have been better if. That's okay, because everything's not perfect.
It's like this or something better is the mindset.
Yes, yes, yes. Even when we're setting those goals, and we're going to be spending some time talking about goals, it's good to set goals. And those SMART goals that we're going to talk about are specific goals. And that Melanie just said is something we need to remember even when we're setting and working toward the achievement of those goals. This or something better. Tithing 10% to the place which inspires us and causes us to remember who and what we are. Individualized expressions of that one presence and power with infinite possibilities to demonstrate and no limit to how much joy we can experience in our lives. And that's a quote from
From you?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was looking away, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
I have a question,
Yeah.
Anita. Is it important that the 10% goes to one place?
No.
So you could distribute it to a couple of organizations,
Yep.
as long as you're giving the 10%?
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, I was on Melanie.
If I might just tag on to that, I mean, the way that I learned it, you know, that other church that I spent so much time in over there.
Yeah.
That best to donate to where you're being fed your spirituality.
Yeah.
Where, and I mean, I tithe all, I donate all over the place, but I tithe here.
Yeah.
I mean, I just feel so strong about that.
On one of the calls that we were on with Unity Worldwide Ministries, because one of the things we have to remember is everything we're teaching here comes from our parent organization, Unity Worldwide Ministries. So yes, tithe 10% to where you're spiritually fed, which is right here. And yes, you can take part of that tithe, if you so choose, and give to Unity Worldwide Ministries. Because that organization is a massive organization that needs, to do what it does, and it's a global organization that is taking this message not just to the U.S., but all around the world. And they're the ministries that are growing. One of the fastest growing areas of ministry is in Africa. And we've got, some of the classes that I've been in, I had classmates who were getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning to be on Zoom calls for the class because they were in Nigeria or South Africa or wherever. So, it's yes here, and yes wherever you're getting your spiritual nourishment. Yes, Carol.
I'm almost afraid to say this because I don't want to take anything away from our family.
No, I agree.
But every once in a while, because this is the main place I tithe, but every once in a while, it might be a different calling your heart's telling you, like once a year might be an orphanage in Africa that, like once a year. And then one other time, our drumming weekend, the very last one was last fall. The very last one, because she's retiring. So my tithe went there.
Because you have
Because I
received
20
a ton
years, 20
from that.
years of it, yeah, different years. So, but basically, it doesn't happen very often, but your heart tells you,
Mhm.
And maybe, I would love to say I could do 10% here and 10% there, and it will happen, right? That's why we're sitting here.
That's right.
It's coming, but anyway.
Yep.
Yeah.
Crystal?
In religious science in California, our church gave 10% to the home office in Colorado.
We have a tithe that we give. I don't know, since I'm not involved with the finances of the church, I don't know if that is a 10% tithe. But yes,
Yeah.
most Unity churches it's not a requirement, but it's kind of an expectation that the individual churches will tithe to
To the
Unity
home,
Worldwide. But that, if you've gotten, there's so many wonderful resources from Unity Worldwide. A lot of the stuff that I get either from Truth Unity or from Unity Worldwide, all these wonderful booklets. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
If you are not using that 40-day booklet, dang, do it. It's really good. It's really good. Mary Ann, can you see this?
I'll try. Money is like love. The more you give away, the more you have. Love is limitless resource. Did you say what? Resource, and so is money. Both were created by God to enrich our lives and allow us to live fully, joyfully, and completely.
Money's just it's just paper.
Is that Charles Fillmore?
No.
That's from the
That's from, okay.
Edwin Gaines book.
Edwin Gaines.
Yeah. And if you get the slides, they're referenced in here. So I don't know where I got this, but this is so true. Oh, I know it was from one of my classes. These are the tithing rites of passage. 1, we don't tithe. And we say to ourselves, I would if I could, why should I? We have all kinds of excuses of why we don't tithe. And then we move up in consciousness a little bit, and we say, well, if I don't tithe, I'm not really being a good Christian, or, a lot of churches guilt their parishioners into
Yes.
tithing.
Absolutely.
And I
And
believe,
you
yeah,
have to bring
tithing.
in your W-9 forms.
Yeah.
And
I believe in tithing, you know, in other ways, like you said, there's
Yeah.
other organizations, or you can give up your time, or,
Right.
you know,
Right?
different things.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people, that's the second stage in the rite of passage for tithing, is to tithe out of guilt. And then we tithe out of duty. Well, I really have to, because it's my duty, you know, it's my,
Aren't those kind of the same thing?
well, they're
An obligation.
similar, but rather than giving joyfully, we're giving out of a sense of obligation. Thus, more enlightened souls, we tithe because, well, if I give, guess what? I get to receive. It benefits me to tithe. So that's, you know, okay, that's better, I guess. But when we tithe because it's our nature, that's why I love the additions that Linda's helped us make to our divine love through me. Because tithing, abundance is my nature. I give easily and joyfully because the universe is my source and abundance is my nature. And dag nabbit, it feels good. And I'm so glad that we've added that. And everybody's we keep saying it, it's gonna start sinking in. And you won't be able to escape. Your consciousness will tell you.
Okay.
So the purpose of tithing is to acknowledge and show our awareness of our true source. The true source of our good is what? The divine, right? And when we tithe, we're demonstrating our gratitude for that knowledge, for knowing that all things come from one source. And there is no limit to that source. And this, again, is from the Four Spiritual Laws of Prosperity, and this is Edwin Gaines' testimony. Once I had been tithing for a while, some very interesting things started to happen. By the end of 3 months, my income was doubled, and at the end of 6 months, it had tripled. That's a commitment. I mean, if you read this book, she talks about if she found 10 cents on the street,
Yeah.
she'd tithe
You do
a penny.
everything. You tithe on everything.
She
Absolutely.
tithe on every dime that came into her possession. She was fanatical about it. She said, if I'm going to do this, I'm committing to it. And she tithed 10% on everything. Once you move through the fear of tithing and get to the other side where you have proven to yourself this divine principle, Edwin Gaines says, I promise you, you will love to tithe. Absolutely love to. You'll find you can't wait to get some more money in so you can send some more out. Talk about divinely empowered, easily and effortlessly, because the universe is my source and abundance is my nature. This came from Brian Tracy. I added cast aside your limitations. Cast aside your limitations and cast aside your doubts. Make a total commitment to living the life you were meant to live. So when you're setting your goals, set them high. You know, what is it? Shoot for the stars, and if you hit the moon, you're still way further ahead than you would have been otherwise. Give yourself permission to dream big. Because we serve a limitless God. God, Buddha, Allah, Divine Presence, Sweet Spirit, whatever name you want to call it. That energy is amazingly, I mean, there's just so many times today I've seen it work together for our highest good. It's so cool. And this is a good one for you. 21-Day Challenge. There's another book. I didn't bring that one with me. It's called A Complaint-Free World.
Right.
And yeah, they have a little bracelet you can buy.
Oh, yeah. I remember.
And the 21-Day Challenge, this is a 21-day challenge to becoming a better you. So for 21 days, I will not gossip, I will not criticize, and I will not complain.
And if you do, you start over.
Yeah, you got
And if-
Where can we get those?
Go to a complaint-free-world.com.
Or just take a rubber band. You just
Yeah.
flick
Yeah.
yourself and it
Yeah.
hurts.
Yeah.
Just say,
Well,
you yourself from home.
What he suggests, they're promoting their
Yeah.
bands and stuff, but
What
they
if other
I think
people
they've
are doing
sold
it?
over a million of those things now. And the way it works is if when you start and you maybe have it on your right wrist and then you complain, put it on your left wrist. And then you start over. And then maybe you go a day or two longer. And then you catch yourself complaining or somebody else catches you complaining. It goes back on the other wrist and you start over. And some people, it takes them a long time to get through 21 days.
Especially on one
You have
day.
to start over.
But,
Yeah.
but
Just
guess
start over.
what? By the time that you can go for 21 days without complaining, you have changed. And not complaining about anything will change you. It will change you. No complaining. $100 fine for each violation. And this Kathy, this particular cartoon Kathy, says, deprived of her favorite means of expression, Kathy was speechless, much to the relief of her coworkers. Have you ever been around somebody that, oh my gosh. I mean, I don't care if the sky is blue and the sun is out and everything is perfect, there is somebody that's going to find something to complain about. But we can change us. We can't change other people, but we can change us. And we can respond to someone that's complaining in a different way. And you say, well, I found that when I feel that way, all I do is I say these affirmations, or I use this tool, or I do this or do that. That can be our testimony. Setting goals. And let's see, who can I pick on? Gary.
Our challenge and our goal is not to try to fight and manipulate a universe that wants to withhold our good. Instead, it is to accept that the good is here and to give ourselves permission to receive it.
Yes.
Because so often, we just, think, well, I really got to work. I got to really struggle, Or only rich people, the only way rich people get rich is by, cheating and doing things wrong. That's not the way we think.
That's not the way we should think.
Well, that's not the
Sometimes
way
we do.
we choose to think. So we got to make the choices because the human mind, unfortunately, is more naturally negative than it is positive. I mean, there's some statistic somewhere that I read sometime that a child, by the time they reach 5 or 6 years of age, has heard the word no about 100 times more than they've heard the word yes.
Yes.
We have been raised
Yeah.
in such, typically, not everyone, but typically most children are not raised with yeses.
I know.
They're raised with the no,
no-nos.
yeah. So that's what we're programmed that, and they say that by the time you're 5 or 6 years old, that internal programming is set. So it really is not until we get to an age where we start taking conscious control of our own minds that we can even begin to make those changes. And as I said, we're going to talk real briefly about SMART goals. SMART goals are specific. In other words, there are clear, detailed plans setting times, dates, and numbers. I will have X amount of money in the bank by such and such a date. And here's my ideas about how to get there. This or something better. They're measurable. So we can track our progress and we can reevaluate and say, well, I thought it was going to work by doing this, or I thought it was going to work this way. It's not really working out that way, so let's see what else might be a better approach. So we make adjustments. It's attainable. Yes, we want it to be challenging, but it's also got to be achievable. And it's relevant. And relevant means it's in alignment with our values and our long-term objectives. This little picture right there is like when your goals and your vision intersect, that's where the relevance is. So, and then it's time-bound. You set a date for the accomplishment. So that's, SMART goals have been around for a long time. Every organization that I've been in uses this formula to set their goals and to achieve the goals.
Where do we find this written?
Just Google SMART goals.
Okay.
You'll get an abundance of information, and there's all kinds of books and classes and such written down. But the big thing is we can't just write it down and forget about it. That our minds, along with our feelings, are so powerful. We imagine, we picture, we feel ourselves. I mean, if you want a new car, go look at cars.
Absolutely.
Remember Jack Boland used to talk about that? You go do test drives.
Yeah.
Any car that was your dream car.
Right.
He
Right.
did that. Remember he talked
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Or like me, I went to the Autorama yesterday, and man, you should see some of those cars.
Yeah.
Take a
about
picture
that.
of it. Take a picture of one of those cars and put it on your image.
Image
Yeah.
book
With you
pages.
standing next to it or sitting in the driver's seat.
That's true.
Yeah.
Image book pages work wonderfully for
Yes.
what you're describing right in here.
All of this stuff works. It's just we need to work it. Have a plan and work your plan. And I don't know where this quote came from. I found this slide on the internet. Acting as if isn't about pretending you already have what you want. It's about developing the trust, the belief that it's on its way. It just hasn't manifested yet. And I go back to the seeing beyond appearances, Carol.
I was just thinking I had to learn this. The pretending would be not subtracting in your checkbook. Do you see what I'm
Right.
saying? You know what I mean? Like, oh, this feels wonderful. I just got paid without every night doing the 10-step thing where I had to learn that a very challenging way, actually.
Yeah.
Thank God it was a few years ago and it's done.
Yeah.
As I'm saying, I don't get tempted every once in a while.
Well, we all do.
I had to
Yeah.
I had to have Claire Pettick, come over to my house. It's okay, it's true confession time. And I'd have like 2 months at least of not subtracting, and she would sit there and we would do it together. Of course we had fun because we connected, but still we haven't done that in many years and I'm so happy. So I don't do that anymore. No, I'm
Yeah.
serious.
Yeah. But there are people that do that. I mean, there are people
That's
that,
where you're pretending. You see what
yeah.
I'm saying? Mm-hmm.
yeah.
That's not.
It's not pretending that your paycheck's gonna,
All
go
of a
on
sudden.
infinitely and buy you anything and everything you want.
Yeah.
It is real, it is that confidence that we have a source. One of the stories that Edwene Gaines told in her book was she decided at one point in time to quit her job and start her own business. And she went to her boss and she said to her boss, well, I'm going to be leaving. And he liked Edwene, she did a good job, he had a great deal of respect for her. And he wanted to counsel her that, you know, starting your own business is not an easy thing to do, and it's very risky, and you're really good at your job, and why don't you just stay and start something part-time, and la, 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 la. And she said to him, well, actually, I have a very wealthy father, and he gives me anything that I want. Obviously, not obviously, but what the boss didn't know is the father that she was speaking of was our divine source. But as soon as she said that, he's like, oh, okay, you're all right.
That's right. That's cool though.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way we have to think.
Yeah.
That we have a source that's infinite. Because we do. And I love this, and I don't know where this came from either. Don't ask God to guide your steps if you're not willing to move your feet.
Les Brown quote. Raise your foot and the path will appear.
Yeah.
I've got that on my fridge. Les Brown, I love it.
Oh, I love Les
Raise your
Brown.
foot and the path will
Well, he got
appear.
his, I mean, look, he's world famous, and he got his start at Church of Today. I mean, that's just, but it's true. I mean, we can't just sit on our cushions with our legs crossed and we can do that, but if we're not willing to take the action steps, that's all well and good, and it doesn't hurt but that's not all you have to do. And then there's forgiveness. That's the third law. And Michael Koch, would you please read this?
I haven't got my glasses.
Oh.
Sorry, I can't hardly even see that.
Linda?
Oh, I'm sorry. You want me to read it? Forgiving isn't something you do for someone else. It's something you do for yourself. It's saying you're not important enough to have a stranglehold on me. It's saying you don't get to trap me in the past. I am worthy of the future.
That's good.
Yeah.
Jody Picoult.
Yeah, have you ever read any of her books?
Yes.
She's a great writer.
There's one in my hallway.
Yeah,
Bookshelf right now.
yeah, she's one of my favorite fiction writers. And her fiction just
Has she
hits.
has she written a bunch? I only
Oh,
have
yeah.
one.
Oh, she's written a
I
number.
think it might have been really popular.
Oh,
at
she's
Church
hit,
of Today.
she's hit the bestseller list multiple times.
Yeah.
10 or 15 books.
Yeah, I mean, and you go talk about the library, you can find just probably everything that Jody Picoult has written in the library.
Well, I'll go into that.
She's a wonderful, wonderful writer.
Does a lot of research too.
She does.
Really does.
I mean, and some of her fiction is based on true stories,
Right.
and she really some of it's tough. Some of it's tough to read.
Oh, it's really too
But
much reality sometimes.
Yeah, she gets pretty close to home sometimes. So, but the thing is that forgiveness isn't about letting someone off the hook. When you forgive, you're doing it for yourself. And you're saying to this other person or this situation that it is not going to trap me in the past. I am worthy of a future. You know, this whole worthiness thing came in and hit me square in the head during one of my classes and during this period that I've been taking these classes, because I realized that I was still carrying around those feelings of unworthiness. And we gotta let it go. Stuff happens. I'm not using the other word. Stuff happens. And sometimes when that stuff happens, we want to wallow in it. And I wallowed in it plenty over the years. But we get to the point where we're saying, what the heck am I doing to myself?
Sometimes you have to wallow a little while until you're ready to unwallow.
That's true.
And
That's
Jack used
true.
to talk about that a lot.
But But you gotta, at some point in time,
Yeah.
if
Feel
you
some
don't let
grief.
it go and move on,
Feel some grief and then,
yeah. Refusal to forgive reveals that we are clinging to self-defeating feelings such as guilt, shame, blame, hurt, resentment. And all of these prevent us from feeling truly worthy of accepting the gifts of the universe. And if you want to do some work in this regard, highly recommend Brene Brown. Brene Brown has done a ton of stuff on this.
How does she spell the first?
Brene.
Maybe
So
you ready
lady.
to go?
She's amazing. And if you want to get a taste of Brene Brown, you can go on YouTube, and she's done TED Talks and all kinds of stuff. But she is an awesome writer on cleansing ourselves from the guilt or shame or hurt that we've been carrying around with us. And according to Brene Brown, that stuff is underlying too many of our problems. And we gotta discover it. We can't get rid of it if we're pretending it's not there. You have to acknowledge it and then deal with it and then let it go. Matthew 7, 1 and 2. Judge not, that ye be not judged. For with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged. And with what measure ye meet, it shall be measured against you. Measured to you again. And that is just another way of saying, what we give, we receive. If we want the good, that's what we give. We don't... Another thing that I read in Edwina Gaines' book, and it's nothing that we haven't all experienced. She said, at one point I realized I'm teaching all this stuff, and then I get out there on the highway, and somebody cuts me off, and I'm like,
They might come at you.
yeah.
Careful.
And she said, what am I doing to myself? She recognized that she was allowing something outside herself to take control of her. She doesn't know that person. She doesn't know what's going on in their life. She doesn't know, yet she is angry and you are, calling them names or whatever. And she realized, no, I don't want to be that person. So instead, she made a choice. She made a choice to say, I don't know what they're going through. They could be on their way to, rushing to the hospital to see a loved one for the last time before they pass. I don't know what they're going through. And maybe it's not that dire, but we don't know. So why should we condemn someone when we have no idea what they're going through? So rather than asking who's to blame, let's ask, how can we solve this? How can we fix this? How can we make this better? The questions that we ask ourselves, that why question or who's to blame question, it's just not going to do us any good. But when we learn to ask ourselves a better question, then we can move. We look for solutions. We ask. We move forward. This is a whole nother area that you can spend hours and hours and hours exploring. How to reframe your story. Because we're all telling ourselves stories. And when we can find out what story it is we're telling ourselves, that I've always been this way, or I've never had, or whatever it is.
Marianne Williamson quote in my upstairs bathroom. Let go of your story so the universe can write you a new one.
Ah, I love that.
It's huge.
I love
Look at
that.
that a lot.
Let go of your story so the
So you're
universe
not
can
living in
write
the
you a
past,
new
for
one.
one thing, to help stay in the present, yeah.
That's back to that mindfulness.
It cannot write you a new one if you're back there, it's impossible.
That's right.
Or up here. And for
Or either way,
future.
yeah, that's another, thank you, Linda, yeah, either way is not healthy.
Yeah. Why do you see the speck in your neighbor's eye, but do not notice the log in your own eye? Sometimes we are so quick to judge other people. And this is biblical stuff, folks. You know, it's been around for over 2,000 years and before. Forgive. Forgive freely, forgive joyfully, and forgive completely. It's just not for them, not because what they did was right, but for yourself. Because you deserve it. You are worthy of moving forward.
I love the old saying, you know, don't hold on to the anger and you forgive people, because otherwise it's like you're taking poison and you're waiting for the other person to die.
Yeah. Or to get sick.
To get
Yeah,
sick,
I
yeah.
think that's happened.
And another one of your deals says, you're giving them all that power.
Right.
They don't even know that you're angry, and you're giving them all that power over you, personally over you and your life and
How
everything.
you're feeling, yeah, yourself.
And finally, divine purpose. This is the fourth law. And simply having money is not the goal. The goal is to use money to do what our hearts lead us to do. And by doing that, we will fulfill our divine purpose. What?
I said, I guess only shop at Target.
That's a great logo, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Our work and growth comes through our divine purpose. And our divine purpose becomes our way of living. And, you know, I had no idea when I started speaking at Unity churches that I would end up going to school and becoming a Unity minister at this point in time in my life. I had no clue that that was going to happen. However, I truly do believe that this is my divine purpose. I mean, I've always loved to teach, and what am I really doing? That's what I'm really doing, is I'm hopefully giving you some thoughts and ideas that you can take with you into your life, so that your life can be everything that you want it to be. Because my life has been changed dramatically from learning these principles and putting them into practice, little by little, day after day, month after month, year after year. And we never stop growing. Never. And to find our divine purpose, there's some ideas of how to help us do it. Ask ourselves, what needs to be healed? What needs to be changed? What needs to be transformed? And what would be fun for me to get involved with? To help fix it, repair it, shift it, restructure or perfect it. Have fun. Your divine purpose should be doing something you truly enjoy. And I gotta tell you guys, I love this stuff.
And we can tell you.
I love this stuff. I mean, every hour that I spent working on this, I'm like, oh, that's so cool, that's so cool, that's so cool. Oh, look at that. It's just a hoot. I just have a ball doing it. And it requires that we be 100% committed. 100%, not 99.5, not even 99.9. We have to be 100% committed to fixing, repairing, restructuring, or perfecting whatever you want, whatever you have identified, and then devote your time, your energies, your talents, your skills, and your money to supporting that one piece of this earthly puzzle. Because there's a lot of broken stuff out there, a lot of broken people out there, and there's so much we can do. Carolyn.
Did you ever notice when you were, walking the path, that some people in your life you had to let go of because they would keep coming up with saying something? You're all excited, and then they would just say,
Oh, yeah.
pour water on it or whatever. Because I'm going through this thing where a lot of my friends, my friends, I don't want to be friends with them anymore. Because
You can love them from a distance.
Because I tried to share with them, and I noticed too, you have to be careful who you tell your goals, because it just happened. I was trying to help someone because their power was out, and I forgot, and I was saying something about my artwork, and they said, "Oh, you can't make a living selling your art." I go, "Oh no." That's what I just did not need to hear, because I'm very excited about it.
Right.
But why does that happen? Is that second force? Or is it just pushing you? Will you make different friends?
It's more
They
about
may be a
them.
mirror for something that you haven't looked at.
I gotta do a lot of forgiveness, even just since yesterday.
Yeah.
Even since just now.
Remember, it's about them. They don't believe it.
It's not, yeah.
It's
not
about
you.
them.
But
They
what
do
am I
not
supposed to
believe.
do with those people?
Well, just,
insecure.
think of what
Love
Edwina
'em.
Gaines said to her boss. Well, I have a father that's very rich.
Very generous.
And he gives me,
My universe.
anything
is
I need.
abundance.
and they don't have to know that the father you're speaking of is
Well, I
not
just
physical form.
was rearranging something to accommodate someone today after class, and they canceled. And I've forgiven her, but I'm disappointed. What do you do with that?
Let it go.
40 minutes.
It'll pass.
I mean, we're, even those persons that disappoint us, they're doing the best they can. I mean, for me, one of the biggies is the father of my children, and boy, I have had to do a lot of forgiveness work there, and I continue to be given the privilege
Some
of
people will
doing
not
that.
change, but you changed.
Correct.
So it's
about
not
them.
wrong to find other friends, right?
No, not at all.
You have to remember that even though you're on a path that you've declared, that they may not be there and they may not recognize someone who is.
And sometimes people actually resent
No, that's what I'm finding.
the fact that we have found something
That's what I'm
that they
finding.
haven't found. They haven't discovered it for themselves.
That's what I'm finding. And I try, to show them, invite them, whatever. And it's still the same, but I've moved on. So sometimes that just happens.
It's about them.
Yeah.
There's always a little.
One of the, I forget the author's name, but I remember reading many times that we become the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. So be careful about the 5 people that you spend the most time with.
It's a big reminder for teenagers.
Brush your teeth.
Oh, yeah.
Also for us, forever.
Yeah, forever.
Oh, yeah.
Forever. I mean, what outside influences, especially when we immerse ourselves in them, make a huge difference. And that's why this, just doing these studies, taking these classes, putting together these classes, I'm just immersing myself in this stuff, and it's like, wow. When we find our divine purpose, then our life is framed with meaning. Isn't that?
And we don't have to run out and find more people really fast.
No, we don't.
Just saying. I'm just saying. You know what I mean? You can even be alone and know you're okay, and then gradually you'll meet new friends. It just happens. You know what I mean? But
That's right.
if you try to do that, that's.
You know, there are clubs, there are organizations. If I, you know, when I was searching for what was going to be my next step in life before I found this, I was looking at writing, and I joined some writers groups, which was wonderful. Then that, you know, it wasn't what I was hoping for. It just didn't work out. This or something better.
Yeah.
And now, and this is really funny because these classes, I've had so much fun putting them together, and I think they're good. But anyway, I've had such a good time with it that I decided that I'm going to put this into a book. And since I made that decision, I have had 2 people come up to me and say, "Have you ever considered?" Thank you, universe. I love it. I mean, it's just so cool.
And when's the book being published?
I'm guessing it's going to be probably a year and a half to put it together, but yeah. So when we make 100% commitment to do or be something, we take every step with integrity. And what happens then is the universe opens up in a way where there was no way before. And it just rushes in to support us. Commitment is what transforms a promise into reality. And that was said by Abraham Lincoln. The first quote, this came from this. A lot of this came from this book. It's a great little book. And our compass for finding our purpose is joy. What brings us joy? If it's bringing you joy, you're on the right track. You're moving in the right direction. Your compass needle is guiding you exactly where you need to be.
It's the key.
Yep. Yeah.
Is your joy.
Yeah. And it's just, you know, you feel it. You feel it. It's like, dang, this is it. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is our affirmation for this whole series. I want everybody to write this down and use it and say it. Let's say it together right now. Large, rich, opulent, lavish financial surprises now come to me, and I am grateful. So this concludes our 6 series sessions on a holistic approach to prosperity, and it's been a blast doing it. Here's a few of the resources. There's that Complaint-Free World. The author is Will Bowen, Bowen.
Oh, I just read that name. What the heck was I looking at?
It's great. It's great.
That's the.
So let's close with a prayer. Just take a couple of calming breaths and breathe in all that goodness, all that abundance that life gives us so freely and so fully. And feel that gratitude that comes from knowing that we have a rich Father. And our Father, our source, gives us anything and everything we could possibly desire. And life is so very, very good. And so let's remember to give joyfully, give cheerfully, knowing our true source is the universe and our true nature is abundance. And so it is.
And so it is.